Webcast now active.
Okay, thank you. Right, good evening, Councillor. Thank you for attending this remote meeting of the Community Services Committee. It is a recorded meeting. Members should treat all conversations in the chat facility as a matter of public record. Please could all members and officers keep their mics muted unless they are invited to speak. The first item on the agenda is the register of attendance. Please could the meeting clerk undertake a roll call of members and officers, please.
When I say your name, please say present. Councillor Bowles.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Clues.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Dinat.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor
Can't
Davis.
answer now.
Councillor Lambie.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Plasto has given his apologies. Councillor Panther.
Present.
Thank you. Councillor Valan.
Present.
Thank you. And Councillor Ward has given his apologies. We'll just do the officers. Sean, can you just say present, please?
Present.
And Rachel, likewise, please.
Present.
Thank you. Roll call's finished.
Thank you, Clark. We'll now move to the next item on the agenda, which is the declarations of interest. Should you wish to declare one now, please do so by using the chat facility to inform the meeting clerk, please. Clark, do we have anything in the chat?
No.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll now move to the first substantive item on the agenda, which is item 3, the minutes of the previous meeting. We have to confirm as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, the 8th of December, 2020 on paper A. Is there someone to approve?
Councillor Dinat has his hand raised.
Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Dinat.
I propose we accept the minutes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Have we got a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Panther. Clark, could we proceed to a vote?
Of course, Chair.
Thank you.
When I say your name, please say for, against, abstain. Councillor Bowles.
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clues.
For.
Very much. Councillor Dinat.
Or.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lambie.
Abstain, I wasn't there.
Thank you. Councillor Panther.
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Valan.
For.
Thank you very much. That motion's carried, Chair.
Thank you. So the next item is item 4, labellings improvements. So we are meant to receive an update from the working group. Did we get anything, Clark?
So you've got the latest. So if I may, the update I can give you from the meeting, which was the report that has been put in front of you, has been accepted, and they have deferred further consideration of what the final plan will be until the next meeting in March. So this is what they've essentially done is accepted the results of the public survey, which are here in front of you. Mm-hmm. And they're still sort of giving consideration to what the final plan would be. There is some work starting now on there's some grant funding that's coming up, and some of the more what could be like described as sort of low-hanging fruit aspects that are sort of non-controversial, things like path repair and replacement of various bits of playground equipment and things like that. We're sort of looking to do some quote gathering to see if we can sort of put together a funding bid so we don't miss out on that funding while it's open now. I don't think there's anything else to add other than that. Councillor Bowles has his hand raised.
Yes, Councillor Bowles, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, now the working group's accepted the results of the survey, is this the end of
Magda Reed's work within the project? I can see you shaking your head, Tom. So can you answer that first, and then I'll come back if possible.
No, there's a sort of third section to it, which is what I just described as sort of coming up with the sort of final proposal. I think unfortunately I think I've missed it off this, but there was a draft put to the working group, but that's the thing that they're going to go off and consider. But it's like I said, there is a bit more work to be done yet from Magda Reed Associates.
Okay, and is that included in the initial £10,000, or is that extra cost?
From what I understand, unless Rachel corrects me, yes, that's all included. As far as I can recall, it was a sort of 3-stage project, so to speak, from their perspective, which was initially sort of doing the design work for the consultation and considering it, doing the consultation and creating the report, which is in front of you, and then doing the final bit, which is sort of drawing everything together to create a plan based on input from the community and obviously from the council. That's what I understood it to be. And like I said, unless I'm sort of contradicted in the next 10 seconds, then I have understood correctly.
Okay, and final question, if it's okay, Chairman. The grant funding that you just mentioned that was starting to be looked at, can I assume that none of that will be submitted or applied for until the final plan for the site is agreed? Because it would seem rather silly of us to put some grant funding in for argument's sake, some new play equipment, if we then agree a massive plan that rips out the play equipment or relocates it to another part of the site or whatever it might be. So I'm just conscious that we don't want to be putting in grant funding bids if we're then going to agree to a different plan, because obviously if we got the grant funding, did it, and then knocked it down or whatever, we'd be liable to pay back that grant funding.
I agree. I mean, I had it in my head that essentially we would be in a position at the start of March whereby we'd have the quotes in so that we can then go straight for the funding bid sort of after the meeting. I mean, frankly, it's going to take that long to get all the quotes in. They're not, it'll take quite a while to get all the quotes in. It's not something we could do, sort of by next Tuesday, so to speak. There's some things that are sort of non-controversial and won't change very much at all. So, for instance, path repair and renewal. But there's other things, you're right, we need to be cautious around. So that's what I had it in my head. That's what was my understanding from how the meeting ended.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, do we have any other questions from councillors? No. Okay, so I think we can move to the next item, which is item 5, Armed Forces and Community Day. Have we got any, we've got an update. No, we've got no further updates, sorry. So, unless there's anything else, Clark? No.
No, I mean, it's blindingly obvious to say it is very difficult to plan a mass event in the middle of a pandemic, but that's stating the blindingly obvious. Councillor Donat has his hand raised.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Donat.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Could we sort of decide whether this is going to be on or off, just to help the members of the working group mainly, or decide whether we're going to make a firm decision in the next 2 months, say, or because we've got outside members of the public, of course, on the working group, and they're asking the questions now, is it on or is it off?
Would you like me to respond to that, Chairman?
Yes, please. Yes.
Well, it's very difficult giving an answer as to whether an event will be on and off, in terms of what the government's saying in June, because you know, if you look at the last 6 months alone, in September, everything was fine and we were all told to go back to work. At Christmas, they got a bit iffy about us all meeting up. And then a week and a half later, we went into the third lockdown. So making a prediction is difficult. If we were going to be cautious, looking to cancel the event for this year might be the more sensible approach, rather than spending potentially quite a considerable amount of time or postponing the event, whatever you want to call it, rather than spending a considerable amount of time only to find out that it might not happen. But then it might be that the vaccine works and all is well with the world by the end of May. I don't know how else. Like I say, it's difficult to plan an event such as this from this distance out. I think Councillor Bowles had his hand raised first, and then Councillor Dinant. I think Councillor Clues also has been raising their hand.
Okay, so Councillor Bowles, please.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Councillor Danett. To be fair, I think we should be. I think we should be being proactive and make a decision. You know, one way or the other. Are we going to do this? You know, or are we not? I would personally say that we should make the decision to cancel it for this year, because I don't believe we'll be in a position to hold it on the date it is. But I think by cancelling it, it gives everybody it draws a line under it for everybody. Everybody can then, you know, get their head in gear and get organised for the following year. I just think kicking it down the road every month, you know, you could end up in a position where we're at, you know, April, May time, and then you're starting to plan for an event in a month, 6 weeks time, which, you know, you can quite easily end up with egg on your face and it not be what you want it to be. So I would agree with Councillor Danett that we need to be making a decision, and my personal decision will be that unfortunately we cancel it again for this year.
Thank you, Councillor Bowles. Was it Councillor Clues was next?
I think it was
Yes,
Councillor Dinant. Yeah, so carry on.
Yeah, Dick has sort of contacted us several times on it, and certain things were. Are you laughing? What are you laughing for? And I've just said that to him directly, we can't sort of like focus on anything until anybody knows anything about it. But the problem is with those things that everything things get booked up like really, really quickly. So it was sort of like snapping it up, and it was more the organisations that were coming in that were querying it. However, we all and they all know what the situation is, and I said you've got to give them a point blank, you know, answer. You know, nobody can actually physically answer that, but the town is I would definitely say cancel it. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Clues. Councillor Danett, did you want to say something?
Yes, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman, I'll echo the sentiments of the other two councillors, and if there's a firm proposal to cancel, I would second that.
Okay, so have we got somebody to? Was it you, Councillor Bowles, who suggested first to cancel the event for this year?
Yeah, I was just dipping my toe to see what other people thought, but if that seems to be, you know, okay with everybody else, I will make that proposal that we can't unfortunately cancel it for this year to allow the committee to move on and look at a proper event next year.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Councillor Bowles. I would just say that doesn't stop them from having, you know, an online, you know, they can organize, you know, an online event on Zoom or Teams or, you know, something they can broadcast themselves anyway, without us. Yeah. But yeah, have we got a seconder for?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Panther. Clark, could we move to a vote, please?
Of course.
On the motion, yeah.
When I say your name, please say for, against, or abstain. Councillor Bowles.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Clues.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Dinant.
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lambie.
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Panther.
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Valan.
For.
Thank you very much. That motion's carried, Chairman.
Thank you, Clark. So our next item is the closure of facilities, item 6. So to note and update, about the closure of certain facilities following the new lockdown. Clark, would you like to give a short update to the members?
Of course, Chairman. I think I sent out an email out to you all very shortly after the lockdown was announced, and we'd read through it. The effect of this one on our services is very similar to the second one and not the first. If you remember, the first one was much more stringent and wide-ranging and technically included all sorts of things in parks and the like. In relation to parks, the only bits of equipment that we have to sort of close off is adult gym equipment. And then everything else is the same. Well, so everything. So in relation to Marshall's sports ground, that's effectively closed. And then the pavilion at Levellings is also effectively closed. But as I say, it's essentially the same net result as the second one. Councillor Bowles has his hand raised.
I think yeah. Councillor Clues as well, but
sorry, I was reading my report. Sorry.
So I don't know which one was first though.
No idea.
Yeah. Councillor Clues, did you want to say something or ask or?
She's muted.
Yeah, Councillor Clues, you're on mute.
Oops, pressed the wrong one. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Thank you. What I find absolutely amazing is the fact that there's a play area that they can use, but they can't use the gym, and that just don't even make sense in the same. Touching one piece of equipment, whether it be a play equipment or touching a fitness equipment, just doesn't even come into the same equation, because also the kids often run around and play on that. So I just don't get that one.
Clark?
The legislation says adult, I can't remember the exact wording, but outdoor adult gym equipment should be closed, but playgrounds should be kept open. I don't make up these. I don't make up these rules. I just sort of try and interpret them as best as I can.
Okay.
That's it. I don't really have any magic answers, but that's it. That's I literally read what it says and then I do what it says as best as I can.
Tom, you got to wave a magic wand somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. Councillor Bowles. Councillor Bowles. Yeah.
It's just curious, really. Had there been some changes or some updated guidelines come out at the end of last week, over the weekend, or anything? I just noticed on social media there was a lot of councils in other places who had taken the decision to close their play areas, and they were absolutely getting slated. So I'm not saying we do it, but I'm just curious whether there'd been some change in guidance, or if they'd just taken a decision on local situation or anything like that.
I haven't seen any. Sorry, to you, Chairman. I haven't seen any updated guidance, but there is a wall of stuff that hits me every day that I try and read through. And like I said, for the last I read, it was very clear that playgrounds should be kept open. In fact, if I recall correctly, it's a copy and paste from the second lockdown, because if you recall during the first one, there was a lot of grey areas around parks. In fact, it got to the point where I wasn't quite sure what a park was anymore, because apparently they were needed to be kept open, but everything in them should have been shut. And the second time around, they became very explicit that playgrounds should be kept open. This time round, from my reading of it, that is what they've done again, but they've also been very explicit that outdoor adult gym equipment should be closed. That's sort of how I read it. If I've missed some guidance, I apologise, but I haven't personally seen any, and unless sort of Sean contradicts me in all those moments, unless Sean contradicts me within the next few seconds, then I can only assume that it is as it was when I last read it on the 5th or whenever it was now.
I think basically following, I've probably seen the same as Councillor Bowles with regard to some councils closing play areas and such like. I think it's basically it's there is an onus on the site manager, an owner, as to whether if they feel that social distancing, if there's too many people visiting the sites and they just can't manage, then I think it's a reactive thing to close that area down. That's being seen as the responsible thing to do. So, like you say, a lot of councils are getting slated for that sort of thing, but that's my understanding anyway. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? No. Okay. So now I think we can move to the next item, which is the garages at Love Lane allotment. So it's about asbestos and to remove these garages. I don't know if it's
We missed an
Tom.
item, haven't we, Chair?
Yeah, I think you've missed. Yeah, so I'm just. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's the general cemetery. Yeah, the barrier. Yeah, item 7. Yeah, I think Tom Clark, is Sean able to give us a bit of a background, reason why they need a barrier there?
I'm sure he can, and I would hope that he does, because I although I've put this together and I understand the general requirements, I can't really speak to the specifics.
Thank you.
Yeah, for you, Mr. Chair. Just with regards to, I was approached by a family some months ago. They were looking to install a memorial bench. It sits at the very last vacant burial section that we have, and it sits right on the bottom of a not a massively steep incline, but nevertheless it's very much down at the bottom. I think what the issue is, we authorised the bench. There wasn't one in the area. We have been trying to limit the amount of benches in the cemeteries. Previously, they've got out of control a little bit. But yeah, so we authorised that, and the family installed a wooden bench. I think probably 18 months or 2 years. No, it's around 18 months. They've decided to install a granite bench. We looked at it with regards to where it was situated. Didn't necessarily felt it caused a problem. And it does sit on the corner of the incline now. As the colder weathers come about, there have been some issues with some cars slipping on some of the ice in the cemetery over the weekend, albeit due to, obviously, there's no staff on site at the weekends. So I mean, it's been regularly salted now, but they did ask, and they put together a little sketch, which I think is included within the report. I know the family quite well. Their bench is very tasteful. They've adopted the tree that's in the area, and they've sort of done some nice sort of ornate planting around the tree. I've got no real issue with regards to the barrier being in keeping. I do just feel that there's not a lot of room behind the bench. And I think if there was any serious impact by a vehicle, that the bench would get damaged nevertheless. I've spoken to the family, obviously, with regards to their insuring said bench and a memorial, etc., of which they assured me that was the case. But and I think we have spoken to our insurance company with regards to our responsibility. He just really threw up. He said, obviously, there's no issue there with regards to insurance. The issue is obviously one regarding the maintenance and upkeep, whether or not the barrier forms some sort of trip hazard. Like I say, in my opinion, I'm sure that the family would ensure that this is in keeping with the area. Like I say, they've kept everything very. It looks very tidy and very in liking with its surroundings. So yes, that's all I have really on that.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. Any questions or observations from councillors?
Councillor Bowles and Danette have their hand raised.
Councillor Bowles?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I don't know if it's me being a bit slow here, Sean, but can you just clarify for me? Is it that the barrier will stand aside from the bench, sort of in between the road and the bench, to create a buffer? Am I understanding that right? Is that what its aim is?
Yeah, the intention is to protect the granite bench. So it's probably only 6 inches, set 6 inches behind the bench itself, and I think it's slightly smaller than the bench. I think it's the same length, but it does, like you say, it'll prevent. Well, it may prevent damage if a vehicle came down and just and slid off that corner on the incline.
Okay, thanks for that. With that in mind then, Chair, and having read the report, I'm happy to move the recommendation that we allow it with those conditions in place that were in the report.
Which is, was the innkeeping, and Sean, operations manager, you will make sure that, it's in keeping with the rest, yeah. Have we got a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
I'll second it.
We've got Councillor Panther will second it. Yeah. Okay.
So, Chairman, just before you go on, Councillor Danette and Councillor Lambie had their hands raised.
Oh, sorry. Councillor Danette.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, Councillor Bowles asked the same questions that I was going to ask, actually.
Okay.
It's just that maybe if we're protecting from skidding cars, would this apply in summer as well, or is it just for winter season? Because we don't get that much traffic up there, do we? If Sean could just answer that.
I think primarily, Councillor Danette, I feel that it's more of a reaction to the winter weather. However, it is on the very corner of like I say, an incline, which is used for vehicle access. So I think the main reason is for any accidental damage, but I think that turn has sort of made them quite wary as well. So I would have said no all year round. Thank you.
Councillor Lambie still has his hand raised.
Yes, Councillor Lambie, please.
To be fair, I was just going to be singing from the same song sheet as Danette and Bowles. I think it's a pretty good idea, and it just sets off the bench anyway. I always think that a little barrier behind the bench sets it off nicely, so that's probably what they're aiming for as well. So as long as it looks nice, and I'm sure it will, I have no issues.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lambie. Yeah. So I think Clerk, can we move to the vote of the motion?
Of course. When I say your name, please say for, against, abstain. Councillor Bowles.
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Clues.
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Danette.
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lambie.
For.
Thank you very much. Councillor Panther.
For.
Thank you very much. And Councillor Valan.
For.
Thank you very much. That motion is carried, Chairman.
Thank you, Clerk. So now the next item, which is the one I said earlier on, I made a mistake. So it's the garages at Love Lane, item 8. So it's about removing the asbestos, well, as the garages with asbestos. Yeah. I think maybe Sean to explain maybe briefly, and if members of the public are watching us.
Yeah, I think the report sets out the condition, sort of a conditional survey of some of the garages that have become vacant on the Love Lane access road at the rear of Ropery Road. The first in one of the images shows a full asbestos garage, and although it's probably been there longer than I have, and may still be there long after I've gone, it does cause some concerns with regards to us as the managers of those garages. There is some signs of deterioration at the door and at the rear of the garage. So although it wouldn't be conditionally wise, I wouldn't say it was falling to pieces, but it is starting to show those signs of age that obviously there is a responsibility on us. We do have duty of care to provide things in good order. And it's what we do if that garage falls into a state of disrepair whilst our next tenant is in there, and it's whether then we become responsible for repair, replacement. So bearing that in mind, it is a decision as to whether we continue to lease in its current condition. We look to have the garage removed, and then I mean it is essentially it's the hard standings that we lease, so it's not necessarily the garages of which we lease, because obviously initially those were all hard standings. The next garage that is I think I've described it as corrugated tin. This is a garage that was it was being used by someone. It was vacant, but being unbeknown to us, being used by someone to store quite a lot of what looks like it looks like somebody who had a business was storing quite a lot of paint in there, and solvents, mastic, tools, etc., etc. So we
Bring back later.
we obviously we discovered that, changed the locks and took that back over. That's still got quite a lot of those. Well, it's got all of those items still in there, so we would obviously have to have that removed. The garage itself it's in an average condition. It's not brilliant by any stretch of the imagination. And then the final one, which I think is described as it doesn't necessarily have a number, because it sits on the corner as the approach into the access road. It's a double sort of timber framed, asbestos backed and sided garage, and that was basically it's not been leased for some time due to its condition. However, this was also subject to some unauthorized use, and they actually there was quite a lot of rubbish that was left at one point within the garage. So we took that over. In my opinion, that's in a really, really poor condition, and I think that should be subject to removal as soon as possible, because if anybody does get into there, open it up, start unauthorized using it in an unauthorized bios, I think that there's well, I mean, it is a case when you open the door, it shakes and nearly falls down. So yeah, I think that my best advice would be to see that one removed as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, have we got any questions from councillors?
Councillor Clues has a hand raised.
Yes.
Councillor Bowles also.
Yes, Councillor Clues, please.
Well, one, I'm still amazed that there are asbestos garages, and I'm surprised, and I think it's got brought up a few years ago, and when I first started, but you know, so you're saying that it's the actual concrete underneath that they actually rent out. So who put the garages up? Is it themselves, all of them themselves, or?
Yeah, I think over time, and I think prior to the council having any responsibility for the hard standings, I think just over time, when they were the responsibility of Funnock and Somerby, I think that this is when people have started erecting garages on those hard standings. But like I say, as people do tend to either move or they decide to give up their garages for whatever reason, we do become sort of responsible for them and whatever's on those outstandings. So like I say, the asbestos garage, they're quite common. There's still many of them around, but they are going to eventually cause us some issue, and they're obviously not cheap to maintain or remove. So that's the options at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bowles?
Yeah, thank you. Sean had answered my initial question about it's not the actual garages that we rent, is it? It's the concrete floor. So there'd be no issue in knocking these down and then, like it says in the report, hiring them out as car parking spaces, or allowing somebody to rent it and build a new garage on, which would be the ideal, really, because then they take responsibility for it. So it's a no-brainer to me. I think we've got to do it. You know, not only for the general safety of people if they're a bit rickety and dangerous, but, you know, with the asbestos being in the condition it says in the report, you know, for us not to act and not remove them would be crazy of us if anything did come back. So my only other question is, it says there's no budget for this work. So it's a question for Rachel, really. Would we have to take it out of general reserves, or is there any way that it could be incorporated into the revised budget? That is it going to M&F next week? Sorry. Would we be able to incorporate it within the revised budget, or would we have to take it from reserves?
Just to advise that the proposed revised budget, there is £3,500 within that for this project.
Perfect. In that case, then I'll move the recommendation in the paper that we go with option 1.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bowles. Have we got a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Clues. Clark, can we move to a vote, please?
Chairman, Councillor Dinat has his hand raised. I think Councillor Lambie did a moment ago, but he might have been to propose a second something else. I'm not sure. He's nodding, so he wants to propose a second something. I don't know whether Councillor Dinat wishes to speak still.
Councillor Dinat?
Yeah, yeah, I agree the garages need removing, yeah, and we've got a quote, Mr. Chairman. Just a question for Sean. That's 232 Ropery Road, which is the third garage that needs removing. It says in the report there's asbestos in that one as well. Yet later on it says it might be possible to remove the third garage in-house. Can Sean just tell us, can we do that, or did we not ought to go for all 3 garages? And it would mean upping the quote a bit, but it gets the job done at one.
Yeah, there's 2 triangular pieces of asbestos within the garage at the rear of 232. I actually spoke with Rilmat with regards to this, and that they're more than willing to remove that piece. There's I've had a good look around the garage. I've checked the base, and we've had a lot. I mean, I'm more than happy when Rilmat do come on site, if that's what's agreed this evening, for them just to do a check around. But from what I can see, all that's in there is 2 small, like I say, triangular pieces that probably they're maybe 30 centimetres in length and maybe 15 centimetres in height. So it's just at the eaves of the garage, that's all. So like I say, they did sort of agree to remove them at that time.
Thank you for that. I'll second the proposal to go ahead and get the garages removed.
Clark, yeah, I think we had already a seconder now.
I think, yeah, Councillor Clues beat you to it.
Yeah.
So, sorry, Councillor Dinat, you lost.
That's correct.
Would you like me to move to a vote, Chairman? Now?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah, if I say name, please say for, against, abstain. Councillor Bowles.
For.
Thank you, Councillor Clues.
For.
Thank you very much, Councillor Dinat.
For.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lambie.
For.
Thank you very much, Councillor Panther.
four,
Thank you very much. And Councillor Valan.
4.
Thank you very much. That motion is carried.
Okay, now we've got item 9, which is the exclusion of the press and public. So, councillors, would you like to move to a private session?
I'll propose we move into private session.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Clark,
Of course, I'll take the vote. When I say your name, please say for, against, abstain. Councillor Bowles. Thank you very much. Councillor Clues.
4.
Thank you very much. Councillor Donat.
4.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lambie.
4.
Thank you very much. Councillor Panther.
four,
Thank you very much. Councillor Valan.
4.
Thank you very much. Chairman, with your permission, I will end the live feed.
Yes, please, Clark.
Thank you.